Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Thursday, March 26th. We are live on Rumble, live on Twitter, live on Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. We're live on Substack. Great to see all of you who are watching on Substack. Please give us a like, a thumbs up, and a subscribe, growing by leaps and bounds over on the sub. We're also on the Twit. If you are watching right now on Twitter, please give us a like, a thumbs up, a comment, and a retweet. That's how we grow the Shannon Joy Show organically. To everyone watching on Facebook, great to see you. Inez Annie Cyrus is producing the Shannon Joy Show today. Thank you, Annie. And she will be keeping an eye on all of the chats. So if you have a question or a comment, let me know. Throw it up in the chat. Annie will pick it up and she can pop it up on my screen here and I can answer your questions. We have a lot of time to spend together today. I know I told you yesterday it was going to be a full show of just you and me, mano y mano, no guest, but I completely forgot it was on the calendar. I have an amazing guest today that I scheduled a couple weeks ago. This is a gentleman that I've been wanting to talk to for months. His name is Spike Cohen, and he is the founder of You Are the Power, an amazing organization, grassroots, bottom up. They are going after local governments, state governments, and the federal government in their efforts to try to separate parents from children. So medical kidnap, CPS, family courts, and child trafficking in the United States of America. It's real, it is dangerous, and Spike and his organization have been doing enormous work in reuniting families. Special report today with Spike Cohen, and he will be in at about 12:45 p.m. Eastern time. We'll spend the last 45 minutes with Spike. Unbelievable work that he's doing, and he's going to give us the information that every parent needs to know about how to protect your kids from things like medical kidnap, which is becoming a very real problem. So we'll be talking to Spike in just a minute today, but great to see all of you. We have quite the show for you today. Let's say hello to everyone in the live chat. Ralph the Flying Dutchman on Rumble is the very first chatter on Rumble. Great to see you, Ralph. CM1968 is with us. We have P-Surge99. Great to see you, P-Surge. Haven't seen you on the live chat yet today. And of course, as I mentioned, we are broadcasting live on the Twit today. And I see you, Re-Evolution Cafe Orchestra on Twitter. Hello, Shannon. I've been doing gangbusters on Twitter lately, by the way. Like, my Twitter game is on. And last night, I don't know if you saw, if you guys are following my Twitter account, but I'm one viral post after another, really racking up the impressions. And you see the headlines for today's show. I don't know what to, I don't know what to say. I cannot even with the headlines that we have to cover here every day on the SJ show. It's Crazy Town, USA. We live in Crazy Town, USA. And every day you don't think that things can get more bizarre and insane. And then, well, we had what went down in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Did you guys hear the one about the robot, the tranny, and the hooker? Yeah, they met up in Washington, D.C. yesterday and are trying to feed our kids to the robots. I'm talking about Melanie and Brigit and what looked like George Jetson's maid, Rosie, out of a Cracker Jack box, right? The humanoid that they presented to the world in front of a massive amount of press and what appeared to be like the First Wives Club of Washington, D.C. It was all women, very bizarre. And yeah, I mean, they came together for a major press conference to shove the humanized robots in our faces and with a straight face, advocate to essentially hand the babies over to the robots, right? We need robot teachers. And the robot that they presented, yeah, I mean, Valley Girl voice. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't know what to make of this. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And the only thing that we can do with this, I think, is mock it. And I did. I put that out on Twitter last night, and I'm like, how's this one gonna land? And yeah, it that tweet is going viral. I woke up this morning, it was like 120,000 views on that. And yeah, I mean, we can't take this seriously. I mean, they are certainly dangerous. I mean, this is the evolution. This is the logical endpoint of, radical transgenderism and moving us into grooming us towards transhumanism. It's insane. These people are insane. We should not take them seriously. And, Melanie and Brigit can, I don't know, go hang out with their little robot, but we don't need them. Which one is the robot is the big. I know, Mark the Regan. And then I also had to drop enough. I don't curse. I typically try not to curse and have a trucker mouth, but occasionally these people are so crazy and so dangerous to our children, our families, humans in general, human life, our freedom, our liberty, that you just have to drop an F-bomb or two. No one wants it. I mean, this was universally mocked all over social media. No one really took this seriously. And the technology isn't there. There are very dangerous things and horrifying things that they are currently doing to our children, namely injecting them by the tens of millions in this country with all sorts of poisons, with the childhood schedule, the COVID shots, you name it, attacking families through the court system, CPS, family courts, separating parents from children, indoctrinating them in public schools. We see all of this, brutalizing and mutilating their bodies through gender affirming care, abortion on demand in clinics across the country, organ harvesting and trafficking in organs. The people in control of things today are incredibly dangerous to our children. But what they did with the robot yesterday, that was a humiliation ritual. That they were mocking us. There was nothing beneficial about that. And it was essentially, just on display, their disdain for humanity, for humans. And so they trot out this Cracker Jack box, robot that is frankly ridiculous. They're trying to normalize this. We'll feed the children to the robots and you'll like it. Then you'll eat the bugs and you'll live in, the shipping container in a 15-minute city. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy, right? It's just all this push towards artificial intelligence, increasing the number of robots and mechanization, which is not there yet. But it is all just demoralizing. And yeah, it's just crazy. I really, I really don't know what to say about this. So that's why we mock it. But I do think this is proof that transgenderism was always the gateway drug for transhumanism. And there certainly was nothing human about that hunk of junk. They called it a humanoid robot. Didn't look human at all. But this is the type of stuff that they are doing that should really worry people. Maria Z and Vigilant Fox pushed this out yesterday. This is the stuff that they are working on that is incredibly dangerous to humanity. This is disturbing. Billionaire-backed scientists are now openly chasing one of the most disgusting transhumanist ideas yet. Ready for this? Growing headless humans to harvest organs and presenting this as ethical and scientific progress. This is from R3 Bio, and they say that these gene-edited organ sacs could replace animal testing and eventually provide blood, tissue, and organs for humans when their bodies fail. One backer even said this, and this is insane, this quote: "If we can create non-sentient headless bodyoid for human beings, that would be a great source of organs." This was reported by Maria Z on Z Media and pushed out by Vigilant Fox. I mean, this is the insane stuff that they seek to shove down our throats. And it is no wonder that Donald Trump's approval ratings, among other reasons, are absolutely plummeting. Absolutely plummeting. And you have to wonder if Donald and Melanie are doing everything they can to tank the midterm elections because, I mean, between the economy, the war, it is one massively unpopular move after another. And the circus sideshow that they presented yesterday on Capitol Hill was yet another example. Mr. Worthless Eater has this to say: "These robots won't be so cute or human when they are carrying auto rifles and hunting us down along with kill drones flying over our heads." And I'll guarantee that that's the plan. Trump's support is absolutely going down the toilet. Mark the Regan on the live chat on Rumble. "Hey, Re-Evolution Cafe. Fight the power, Shannon. You are love and mother courage." Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that comment on the Twitter. If you are watching on Substack, we want to hear from you as well. Another quick show note: tomorrow, the SJ Show live on Friday. We're going to do a live show at the regular time from the Joy Virtual Studio right here. I'm going to be self-producing and welcoming Peter Schiff into the Joy Virtual Studio tomorrow for a very, very important discussion about what is going down with the economy, gold and silver, the markets, the oil shortage, oil prices skyrocketing, inflation, and what he said yesterday would be one of the worst financial collapses we have seen, even worse than the financial collapse of 2008. We need to hear from Peter Schiff tomorrow, and so that's why I'm doing a special live show. 12 p.m. Eastern time, we start. Make sure that you mark your calendars and show up tomorrow. That is going to be a very important show. The poll numbers are plummeting on purpose. I pushed this out on the Twitter. Trojan Trump is doing a bang-up job for the Democratic wing of his uniparty. If you've been watching the SJ Show for the past 12 years, you know that about 10 years ago, I predicted this. When Donald Trump came down the escalator and announced his bid for the Republican nomination for the presidency of the United States of America, I told my audience that he is a New York City liberal Democrat, a predator, and he always will be. He is a Trojan horse. His agenda will be to come in and destroy the Republican Party, and it appears our nation as well, because we've given him 2 terms. And so this is absolutely coming to fruition. And these polls, this is from Interactive Polls, Democrats have flipped a total of 12 state legislative seats in special elections in between 2025 and 26. Texas, Iowa, Arkansas, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, New Hampshire, and another one in Mississippi, just in the past 6 to 8 months. We have a Fox News poll. This was pushed out by Publius on the tweet yesterday from March 20th to 23rd, 2026. Independents' approval of President Trump is now plummeted to 25%. 75% of independents now disapprove of the job that Donald Trump is doing. And as we know, as independents go, so goes elections in America. That is if we even have midterm elections, because we all know that Donald Trump could absolutely pull a stunt, declare an emergency because of energy or World War III or illegal immigration or another scamdemic, you name it. We don't know what it's going to be, but can't you see him declaring an emergency and canceling the elections in 2026? I could see it. Not saying it's going to happen, but I absolutely can see that happening. Great to see you. We're going to have Spike Cohen on in just a minute. Silver Country is with us on the live chat. Mark the Regan is with us. Mr. Worthless Eater, I see you. Bill Benz is with us. 13 thumbs up. Hello. Yes, if you guys are watching on Rumble, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Substack, all of that engagement, whether it's commenting or following the show, if you're on Substack, subscribing to my Substack page and also becoming a paid subscriber, that is all very helpful in growing the SJ show organically. And we have had exponential organic growth. I know I mentioned my Twitter game. We're growing in every platform that we're pushing this show out. And as you guys know, the Shannon Joy Show is completely independent. So I don't have financial backers. I'm not owned by a corporation. I'm not seeded by a political action group. I'm not aligned with any political parties. I'm completely independent, not left, not right, not Democrat, not Republican. Totally independent. And despite that, despite not being platformed, being thrown off of platforms, being suppressed by algorithms, we've been able to wiggle out. And I was just going over, these are just the Twitter numbers. I was mentioning to Annie this morning as we were prepping for the show, just to put this in perspective. The Shannon Joy Show, or the Shannon Joy channel on Twitter, we were doing in March of 2025, so just a year ago, we were doing about 208,486 impressions per month. And that was a low month, to be honest. They were a little higher. I was averaging on Twitter in 2025 about 500,000 impressions. March of this year, we're 5 days away from closing out the month in March. 6,770,174 impressions on Twitter. And one of my videos that I pushed out is upwards. We're probably going to hit 2 million views today. That was a video. I'm pushing clips out from my show on the Twit, and that did almost 2 million views. So somehow, independently, organically, we are able to grow this show. And I'm so thankful to all of you, every one of you watching on every one of these platforms. You are so valuable. Your comments and your feedback and your questions are absolutely critical. And I'm so thankful for all of you. So I appreciate all of you and helping us grow. And we are going to continue to grow as well. Speaking of the techno-fascists, these guys, megalomaniac, control freak, insane people running things. They're just insane people. Donald Trump now is tapping Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, and Huang for Tech Advisory Council. Excludes Musk and Sam Altman. So this is, again, Donald Trump you can see Trump handing his administration, his government, our government, to unelected techno-fascists. And he is spreading the wealth around for sure. This is another reason why his approval numbers are absolutely tanking. And you have to imagine that he's doing this on purpose. There really is no other explanation. I predicted, I have been saying that MAGA, QAnon, and even Donald Trump himself have been one of the largest psyops ever deployed on the American people. I think Trump was designed to come in and literally break apart everything. Trump derangement syndrome existed on both the right and the left, right? The people who despised him lost their minds over it. The people who worship him have lost their minds over that, right? The entire country, this polarizing figure, just breaking ourselves against him and accepting more and more tyranny, as a result of the focus that we're placing on this one central character. It's truly, truly breathtaking to behold. And yes, he is here. I think he is here now in this second term to put the final nail in the coffin of the United States of America as we know it. He has been obliterating our Constitution and our constitutional republic on the heels of Biden's presidency, where he obliterated it in response to what Donald Trump did in the first 4 years of his presidency. So it's just one pummeling after another against our nation, our free market, our citizens, our freedom, our Bill of Rights, you name it. And it's always justified by the reaction to the other party. This is why the two-party political system needs to go. It's over. It's over. It's an illusion of democracy, an illusion of our elections, false choices every time. And it seems as if more and more people are catching up on that, which is actually a really, really good thing. And hopefully people will wake up to this. I'm glad that everyone was absolutely mocking Melanie and Brigit and their robot friend, because that's the way we need to look at this. And we have to begin to activate from the bottom up. There are no answers in Washington, D.C. That is becoming patently clear. If we are to secure our liberty and our freedom for our children in the next 5 years as they attack everything that we hold dear and everything that we believe in as a nation, our founding principles and our founding documents, right? If we don't push back, then they will destroy our republic and they will destroy liberty in the process. And so all of our activation has to be from the outside in. It has to be from the bottom up. Your local organizations, your local organizing, your state legislatures, all hands on deck outside of Washington, D.C. And we're seeing signs of this. This is one of the reasons that I'm really thrilled to be interviewing Spike Cohen today, who is the founder and president of You Are the Power, which is a grassroots organization, helps protect people against abuses from their governments. And I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about local organization. We're also going to welcome Levi Leatherberry, who is organizing locally. He is the head of a major organization that helps people to connect and grow grassroots organizations to protect liberty, our Constitution, and our founding principles. So we're going to be speaking to a lot of experts and activators across the country in coming months to show you exactly how you can begin to fight back from the bottom up. We absolutely need to organize, because this is just gone. This is off the rails. We're in Crazy Town, USA, and I want to have Chris Martinson on. He's been on before on the SJ show. He's wicked smart. He's an ideas man, financial expert. But I would love to figure out a way to organize a tax revolt. I think we have to strike. I think we have to organize in this country and strike and figure out a way to hit them where it hurts and starve the beast. And I don't know how to do that. People have tried to do that. It never works. Most of them end up in prison, and we don't want that. But I do think that there's strength in numbers. And this is why I talk about organizing so often. This is why organizing is so incredibly important. There has to be a safe and legal way for millions of Americans to come together. Maybe it starts with petitioning and sending those petitions to legislators in DC or state legislators, alerting them to our actions, doing it in a very transparent way. I found another great organization. Oh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but I'll find it for you guys. Another organization, it's a fellow out in California, and I can't remember his name, but he is advocating full, transparent revolt, like peaceful civil disobedience, peaceful revolt, but full transparency so that they know exactly. I mean, his point is that we're surveilled. Everything that we do is surveilled at this point. It's game over. Okay. Like with the control they have over our devices, um, our machines, the internet, it's very difficult to do anything in like a secret way. So secret plans aren't going to work for us. But if we organize in a very transparent way through petitioning, and I'm going to start really looking into petitioning as well, I think that we can achieve a lot. And so we'll talk with Spike about that today on the show. We'll talk with Levi Leatherberry about that as well. He's going to be in next week. And then I will find the name of that fellow that I just mentioned in the break, and we can talk. But I mean, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Melanie, Brigit, and the robot, that did it for me. That's ridiculous. They look like Muppets. The Muppets and puppets with Cracker Jack box robots and that look like something out of George Judson's. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. These people are crazy. And the people in real power are sadistic, sociopathic lunatics. I'm utterly convinced. They have absolutely no respect for human life. That is becoming patently clear. When they want to hand our children over to robots, and they say this with a straight face, and they put on that absolutely ridiculous circus sideshow to mock us, that's what they were doing. That was the point of Melanie and Brigit and their little robot and all of the women, right? Notice there were no men there. Like that's how ridiculous and absurd that was. That was on purpose. They did that to humiliate us. They did it to mock us. And to basically send the signal that you have no power. We know, you know, we know, you know, you know, you know, we all know that it's over, right? We will use your bodies. We will break your bodies. We will send you into a war machine in Iran. We'll institute the draft. We'll force you to inject yourself and your children with poisons. We'll lock you down. We'll cripple your economy. We'll pull the rug out from you time and time again. And you're just going to lay down and take it. And we're going to prop up a tranny, a robot, and a hooker to tell you all about it. And we're going to broadcast it all over. And that's what we think of you, citizens of the United States of America. That's what that was. Make no mistake. It's an anti-human agenda. And we need to mock it, we need to resist it, and we need to refuse to comply with it. And the only answer is organization. Massive, grassroots, bottom-up organization from every corner of this beautiful country. And we need to overwhelm Washington, D.C. There are way more of us than there are of them. We surround them. We're just divided. We're just divided. We need to unite. That's why the other central point here that I hammer over and over and over and over and over is that we have to break out of the two-party paradigm. Democrats and Republicans work together. They are on the same team. But more and more people are waking up to this. I don't have the video here. I should have linked it in the show notes of the SJ show today. Lindsey Graham went to his home state to give a speech about Trump. And I kid you not, the audience booed him for 6 full minutes. And he stood up amidst all of the boos, and they were so loud. It was one of the best videos I've ever watched. He's talking about how great Trump is, and they're booing. He's talking about how much he loves Trump, and they're booing. He's talking about how they have to elect all of the Trump-endorsed candidates in the midterms, and they're just like relentlessly booing this guy. It was delicious. More of that, please. We need it. Zen Woman, Thomas Massey, and Ron Paul should get us organized. I'm going to bring anyone and everyone I can into the Joy Virtual Studio and interview them. Anyone who is organizing from the bottom up. I mean, this is it, guys. We're going to have to set up our own supply lines. We're going to have to make sure the electricity is on in our own communities. We're going to have to make sure people get fed in our own communities. I mean, because they are literally going to pull the rug out from underneath us. And this is, as you guys know, and I have pushed out for many, many, many months now, this is a controlled demolition of our economy. They are doing this on purpose. Absolutely on purpose. And so now that the numbers are tanking for Trump, though. Oh, I see you on X. Oh, we have some commenters on X. If you have a comment or a question on Substack or Twitter or Facebook, make sure you pop it in the chat box, and Annie will keep an eye on that, and she'll let me know. But this is from Squints on the Twitter. Trump is Zelensky 2.0. They were both actors. Yeah. Donald Trump was and is in the WWF, like the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or maybe it's WWE, I don't remember. But he was like a character. I mean, he is in the WWF Hall of Fame. He's a professional wrestler and a reality TV actor. And my opinion is that Trump was acquired as an asset for the bad guys probably around the time, it was in the 1990s when he went completely bankrupt, lost all of his money, and was a total failure. And I believe it was Deutsche Bank and George Soros and a few others who bailed him out. So they came in. I think that's when Trump became acquired as an asset. And I think he's an actor. I think he's a political actor, a reality TV show actor. And he was playing the shtick of the Republican for the past 10 years. But really, his mission is to just come in and break everything and wreck everything. And if you missed my show yesterday, Patrick Wood, who is the founder of technocracy.news, was in with me yesterday. I don't know if you guys missed that show, but go back to yesterday's show and watch my interview with Patrick. He blew my mind with what Trump apparently independently, with the blessing of his backers or his puppet masters or whoever is pulling the strings on Trump, his initiative to become essentially the king of Gaza, right? A technate, a technocratic state in the Middle East is unbelievable. I mean, there is an infrastructure built, like a military apparatus, a financial apparatus, a governing board that Trump appoints for life and rules over. And when you begin to understand, when you see what he's doing to our economy, the chaos and all of the pain that he is about to inflict on we, the people of the United States of America, and you're like, why would he do this to his own country? When you consider the fact that he could be planning and angling on cratering the United States of America and then hightailing it off to the new power center, which Patrick Wood said is going to be the Middle East. And Gaza is going to be a central hub for that power center. I don't know if he's right about this, but the writing is kind of on the wall that they would like to do this or achieve this. The technocrats would like to build up these technates. These are essentially fascistic, dictatorial, technocratic police states where there are no human rights, no civil rights, no governing documents, no government to speak of. It's all essentially ruled by the elite, and they surveil everything. All of your buying and selling is surveilled. Your movements are controlled in these technates, and you probably can't get out once you're in. Ian Davis has written a lot about that, and I'm looking to get him on the show. They have technates all over the world. Gaza is just going to be, I think, the major prototype. And it is going to be, I mean, Trump and his family are establishing themselves as the rulers. It's really crazy, really crazy. So go back and watch that video from yesterday with Patrick Wood. It was a doozy. Next week, by the way, we have Dr. Peter McCullough is going to be back on the SJ show on Monday. Don't miss that, among other great guests. And yeah, we're just going to continue to call them out. Hey, on Substack, great to see you, Michael Gahn. Yeah, you liked my twit, right? My Twitter tweet. Listen, you got to mock these people. They're crazy. They're crazy, and they're walking us through humiliation rituals, and we shouldn't accept it. We just shouldn't accept it. So we're not going to. Let's do this. Let's go take a break because I see that we have Spike Cohen in the Joy Virtual Studio. I'm super, super pumped to talk to Spike about his work and the news of the day. Again, what is the theme today? Bottom up, inside out, everything but Washington, D.C. We need to organize from every corner of this beautiful country, the United States of America, locally and at the grassroots level. And we need to push these bastards back because they've overstepped. Our federal government is out of control. Both political parties are out of control. And they are proving to be hostile and dangerous to our children and our freedoms. And so Spike has begun to build what I think will be a very important organization, doing exactly what we've been talking about here on the Shannon Joy Show for the past 10 to 12 years. We've been saying over and over and over till I am blue in the face that the answers are not going to come from a savior God king in Washington, D.C. The answers are only going to come from us. And all we really have to do is say no. We have to refuse to comply, and we have to begin to work from the bottom up to push back. And we're going to talk about that in detail today with Spike Cohen. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to welcome into the Joy Virtual Studio for the very first time a very special guest. He is Spike Cohen, the founder of You Are the Power. Great name for an organization. And he is helping so many families across the country reunite. He's protecting children. And we're going to discuss all of these items with him in just a moment right here on the Shannon Joy Show. I am so proud to be working with Peter Schiff and Schiff Gold in 2026. There is no one that I would trust more to send this audience to in terms of a metals strategy, whether it's your gold and silver physically that you purchase and keep in your home or in a safety deposit box, gold and silver in an IRA, which you can do through Schiff Gold, or even investing in gold mining stocks, which Peter Schiff and his team can also help you with. It is time to get that metals strategy in place. Right now, silver and gold are soaring. Silver is approaching $85 an ounce, while gold is up over $45 an ounce. And people don't see this stopping anytime soon. I know it seems expensive to you, but I don't know that there is a cap to this in the near future. So you can get started now. I want to encourage you guys right now to go to schiffgold.com/joy. That is schiffgold.com/joy. Everything that you need, Peter's analysis, market reports, research reports. You can get plugged into his investment services, physical gold and silver, which we're going to be talking about this month, and also protecting your retirement with a gold or silver IRA. It's all right there at your fingertips on my page, schiffgold.com/joy. Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a moment to thank one of my longtime friends, associates, my financial advisor, and a beloved sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show, Don Polano over at PCM and Associates. Don Polano, as many of you know, was the very first Shannon Joy Show advertiser almost 12 years ago, and he's been with us ever since. I trust Don Polano. He manages some of my assets and my retirement fund, and he's offering his services to all of you. He can take clients anywhere in the country and even across the globe over at PCM and Associates. And as you guys know, it is so important today. There's so much volatility and chaos. You need a human being, a person that you trust, and a person that shares your values. And that's Don Polano at PCM and Associates. So if you are looking for someone to help you manage your retirement or have investment advice, please consider calling Don Polano over at PCM Associates. His number, 1-800-536-1368. That's 536-1368. And of course, you can go to pcmpolano.com. That is pcmpolano.com to learn about all of his services and get in contact with his team. Again, so thankful for Don Polano at PCM and Associates, and I think that you are really going to appreciate his services. So that number again, 1-800-536-1368 for a financial advisor that you can trust. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. So glad to welcome into the Joy Virtual Studio for the very first time Spike Cohen. He is an amazing organizer. He is doing the work. He's a libertarian, activist, podcaster, and he's the founder and president of You Are the Power. It's a nonprofit that fights government overreach with a major focus on family court corruption, CPS abuse, and medical kidnapping cases, which we have covered on this show, at least a dozen of them in the past couple years. You can follow Spike on Twitter. His handle is @RealSpikeCohen. His Facebook is literally Spike Cohen, and his website is youarethepower.net. Amazing work. You are accomplishing so much. Spike, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. I'm glad you're with us.
I'm so excited to be on. We're finally having me on. Thank you, Shannon, for having me.
You are one of those. I have like a whole list of people that I think to myself on a regular basis, you have got to have this person in on the show, Shannon. And I'm just so busy. The news is like a fire hose in my face every day.
Yes.
And I'm just like, just staying afloat is hard enough. And so
Yes.
I'm so glad that we were able to finally connect, because you need to be heard, that your organization needs to go mainstream. People need to know what you're doing, because you are accomplishing so much. Everything that I talk about, bottom up, inside out organization, no more fetal position, no more head in the sand, no more waiting for a white knight on a horse to ride into Washington, D.C. and save us. Do something. We need to do something. And you are doing that in the work. So hats off to you. Why don't I hand it over to you right now, just to introduce yourself to the audience, since this is your first time, and tell them about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, first of all, if we hadn't named the organization You Are the Power, I think No More Fetal Position would have been a good backup name for that. But yeah, my name is Spike Cohen. I am the founder and president of You Are the Power. And what we do at You Are the Power is we protect people against abuse by local and state level government officials, policies, and agencies. And we have been wildly successful in the last 3 years. Shortly after we started, we have taken on over 1,000 causes. We have lost once.
Wow.
And we have been on an absolute tear. We've been scaling up rapidly. And we've gone from pretty much just taking on like very local city councils, county councils. We're still doing this, but we were exclusively doing that. And now we're successfully getting legislation passed and killing bad legislation at the state level. And I wouldn't be surprised if fairly soon we'll be doing things at the federal level. We've just been expanding rapidly.
This is amazing. Why don't you give us a couple examples of when you talk about taking on causes? Spike and his organization go in, and when there's a medical kidnap situation, a CPS abduction, a family court judge gone rogue, going after a mom, separating children from their parents for a whole host of reasons, Spike and his organization go in, surround this family, and help them to unite that family and defeat whatever efforts are at hand to separate the family. And I first became aware of Spike in one of the families that I hosted on my show. I mean, it's tragic. I have these shows every couple months of a child being ripped out of, the arms of a mother and separated. I mean, it's absolutely horrifying. And so when you talk about the cases that you take up, I mean, you are actually helping these families. I'd love for you to give us just a couple examples of what you guys have been able to accomplish. And then we'll talk about the legislation that you are pushing forward, because it's critical. It's amazing. But let's start there with some of the cases that you guys have taken on.
Yeah, so we've dealt with, and I could name any of the families: the Hernandez family, the Savely family, the Clark family, the Timms family, the Sullivan family, and many others that we've successfully reunited. Their stories are so similar in that their child had some kind of a health condition. They either had Ehlers-Danlos or they had some kind of other connective tissue or bone issue. They may have had complications during birth, all different types of things, but all of any injuries or issues that they're suffering from are only and completely explained by a medical issue. There is no sign of trauma or anything indicating abuse or anything like that. And yet they not only get accused of abuse, but they and their children are railroaded through the foster care and family court system. The actual medical evidence that shows they didn't do anything wrong isn't allowed to be presented in family court. They have this criminal charge that's kind of hovering over them, but usually doesn't actually ever get indicted. But the bond conditions of it are used to keep the parents from being able to communicate with each other or live together. So
Wow.
very often people are not only losing their children, all of their children, but they're losing their spouse as well. All of this indefinitely, and this despite the fact that there's zero evidence for this. Now, as insane as that sounds, it's happening at scale across the country to, we believe, thousands of families a year, certainly in the
Wow.
hundreds. And
Wow.
so when we first kind of found out about the Hernandez family was the first one that came on our radar, we were very concerned about taking it on. We did not want to inadvertently help an abuser.
Right.
And so my team, that we have a professional vetting team that vets all of our causes, which is a big part of why we win. We don't just jump on causes. We
Hmm.
make sure they're legit. We spent
Yeah.
hundreds of hours vetting it. And the more we found out, the worse it was. So we went forward with their cause. We did our typical call to action. We put out social media posts about what the family was going through, focusing on the family, not the policy, but the family and the
Mhm.
individuals who are doing this to the family within government.
Right.
We take them to a page on our site that gives a very easy way for people with just a few clicks to send out emails to all the officials involved, telling them to back off and do the right thing. We even
Nice.
provide the wording. They just got to add their name at the bottom. They can change the wording if they want, but we make it where in less time than it took me to just explain that, they've just contacted everyone involved in telling them to back off, which has been very successful. And then we just wait for to win. But what happened was, as we're winning with the Hernandez family, which was that first family, the next thing that happened is a bunch of other families came out of the woodwork with the exact same story. My child is sick. They refuse to acknowledge it. They're calling me abuser. I'm facing decades in prison. I'm never going to see my kids again. I'm already tens of thousands of dollars in debt. They wouldn't even let me access my kids' medical records. Same thing over and over again. And then we found out why. Under Title 4E of the Social Security Act, the federal government is paying state child protective services and the entire system, not just the agencies, but the family courts, the foster care facilities, the visitation centers, the so-called child abuse pediatrics wings in these children's hospitals, everyone involved in we'll call it the child protection industrial complex. They're all being paid based on how many parents are accused of abuse, how many children are taken from their parents, if they're put in foster care, how long they're put in foster care. So they go after the youngest kids possible. They want to have them in there as long as they possibly can, whether or not the children end up being placed permanently for adoption. And the way they get the most money is if the child ends up having a chronic health condition, a lifelong health condition. So that creates the perverse funding incentive structure so that an actual medical doctor is looking at a child who obviously has osteogenesis imperfecta or neonatal rickets or Ehlers-Danlos or some other potentially life-threatening illness without treatment. And instead of saying, let's get this child the treatment they need, instead that doctor thinks cha-ching,
Oh
because
my
that's the
word.
maximum amount of money that they can get. So we've been fighting that tooth and nail, reuniting families. But that's sort of the head of this monster is Title 4E.
And you mentioned that you believe this is happening systematically across the United States of America in every state because of that funding that is tethered to the federal government. And most definitely hundreds of parents and children, but perhaps thousands, which I would believe, given the fact that gag orders are often put in place, the
Yeah.
parents are frightened into submission. They are essentially drawn into the system and are terrified of losing their other children,
Yep.
terrified of other types of retaliatory actions from these courts. I mean, this is insane. One of the cases that I covered, Spike, focused on cancer care, childhood, leukemia and cancers. I mean, this was one of the areas where we've seen the most control, essentially. I had an interview a couple months ago with a family whose child was threatened with abduction because they were not complying with the standard of care protocol for cancer, but because they were supplementing
Yep.
with nutraceuticals, with vitamin C protocols, and with other natural and generic drugs to mitigate the impact of the chemotherapy and the damaging impact of the radiation, that type of thing.
Yep.
And, you know, essentially, the way the law is written, you tell me if I'm wrong, if your child is diagnosed with cancer, you basically lose custody of your child throughout the course of treatment. If you do not follow the doctor's treatment to a T and assert any type of independence in trying to find a second opinion or another protocol, they'll take your child. I mean, you will lose your child and you will lose your child forever. Like they will adopt them out. Am I overstating that, or have you seen situations like that?
There are definitely situations like that. It's different from state to state how it's actually written in law. In
Yeah.
practice, it's almost always as you've stated. If there and I'd even go beyond the cancer and the and fatal, potentially fatal illnesses, serious illnesses. Very often in practice, not how it's written, but in practice, if a doctor makes a recommendation for you and your child that they believe is a life and death issue, and you get a second opinion and then go with that second or third opinion, or if, like you said, you supplement with something else, that's very often a good way for you to lose your kids, or at least to be
Wow.
now having a CPS case being built against you and you fighting to keep your kids. I'll give you an even more crazy example than that, because there might be people watching this saying, well, yeah, but with cancer, it could be a life or death thing or something like that. I would still disagree and say that a parent should be able to make decisions for their child's care, especially if they are actually seeking treatment. It's not like they're saying, oh no, I'm not going to do anything. They are still seeking treatment. And I would argue that 999 times out of 1,000, the parent cares more than the doctor. But we had a
Yes.
case, and it's one we're still working on. A lady in Texas, with her son, with her baby son. The doctor recommended, and I don't remember the name of the drug. He had some kind of a mild infection, and the doctor recommended an antibiotic that, when she looked it up on her phone, it had a black box warning, and which means that this can kill you. And it explicitly said, "Do not ever give to a child under the age of, I forget however many years, but he was literally like weeks old. So there was no, or months old, and so there was no reason to give it to him." She went and got a second opinion, and that the other doctor said, yeah, of course we'd never give that to a child. And so they put him on another antibiotic, and he was doing well. The first doctor sent the police and CPS after him. The child was taken, the boy was taken from her, and placed on an IV of the drug he wanted, and almost died. Had
Oh my word.
seizures, had all sorts of issues. Thankfully, they backed off. Now, just all of that information, the fact that the doctor should have never prescribed that, like legally should have never prescribed that, the fact that the child almost died when he was put on it, the fact that she was getting treatment, you would think that someone would look at that and automatically say, yeah, you get your kid back, and sorry about that, and I think we might actually need to prosecute this doctor.
Mm.
Instead, we're still fighting that. She's still fighting to get her son back after that.
Oh
This
my
is
word. Well,
years later.
I'll help you with that one. If you want to have, she wants to come on the show, or we want to push that out. That's
Absolutely.
insane. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrifying. And you mentioned the state of Texas. Many in conservative media, or many conservatives, Republicans out there, think that bad things only happen in Democrat states. So if you live in New York or California, they'll take
Yes,
your
of course.
children.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
is it better for children and families in some of these red states, or is this an equal opportunity type of situation in terms of attacking and abusing the family structure in
Yeah,
both red and blue states.
this is a 50 state problem. It is neither a red problem nor a blue problem. It is a green problem. It is
Mm,
the federal
money.
government. This is how they get the bulk of their funding. And then some states, and this doesn't really seem to matter whether they're red or blue, it's just which way they went on funding. Some states then harmonize their state level funding to Title 4E or something similar to that, so that now it's pretty much, if you even want to keep the lights on, you need to have a certain number of new active abuse cases every month, every quarter, every year. And so we've heard from former agents in different CPS agencies who were told, we were told, you have to have a certain number, you need to find a certain number of new abused children every month, or you have to find a new job. And it's a quota system. And this is what happens. I mean, we're dealing with another case. We're just in the beginning of it, where police departments across the country are knowingly, wrongfully arresting people for DUI, even though they blew a 0.0 on the breathalyzer, and then they let them go without charges because that gets them a check mark for an arrest, and that gets them federal funding. And so here's what happens. Federal and state funding that is tied to a specific metric leads to quota systems. And
Yes.
those quota systems, it is easier to just frame someone than it is to actually investigate a case. So not only do you end up with a bunch of innocent people being railroaded for something they did not do, but you end up with more people that actually did do it getting away with it as a direct result of it not being investigated. And that helps these agencies because they're able to turn around to the public and to the legislators who fund them and say, even with all of these additional children we've taken from abusive families, we're seeing more abuse than ever before. So we need even more money. So it actually, again, this is how perverse incentives cause perverse outcomes. It actually creates a situation whereby it's best for them to only go after, or mostly, or even just primarily go after innocent people, and allow the actual problem to get worse. This is why we try not to go to government for solutions to our problems, is because they remove all the accountability and other types of negative feedback that would lead them to have to do better if it were being done voluntarily through the market. And so, yeah, this is it's not a Republican problem. It's not a Democrat problem. This is a perverse incentive problem. It's not even specific politicians. You could take all of the existing politicians and remove them, and all of the existing CPS agents and everyone in the agencies, and remove them and put in all new people. And if these same structures were in place, give it a few years, it'd be right back to what it is right now.
Unbelievable. This is a third rail. This is something that Republican and Democrat politicians will not talk about. Very difficult to get them to discuss this type of perverse funding that Spike is explaining here. And you've gone as far as to call this, I think correctly, state-sponsored child trafficking. This is
100%. Yeah.
child trafficking.
Yep. Yep. It is. And I've had people say, well, are you sure you want to call it that? Okay. Child trafficking is the taking of a child from an innocent family and giving to another family or another situation for a monetary incentive. And also, these things are being done illegally. This is being done under the color of law. But if you really break down what they're doing, it almost always violates their actual internal policies. But their internal policies are what they show to the public, but that's not actually how things are going. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't start shifting to the successes that we've had. As I said, we've already reunited multiple families across the country: Georgia, Florida, Indiana, Colorado, one in Texas. We're working on one in Massachusetts. I always, when in these moments, forget all the states, but we've reunited, like, we're at dozens of families at this point that we've reunited, and we're working with many more to reunite them as well. But what we realize is there are policies at the state level and ultimately at the federal level with Title 4E. But for now, there's plenty of meat to chew on at the state level in terms of bad policies. So, for example, in most states, if you are accused, or a good number of states, if you are accused of abusing your children, you now lose access to your children's medical records because they're now a ward of the state. So if if you've been accused of abusing your kid, and the one thing you need to be able to prove that you didn't do it, you can't get access to, that's, we talk about innocent until proven guilty. That's not even guilty until proven innocent. That's guilty and not allowed to prove that you're innocent.
Wow. Right. Right.
And that's what this is. So another bad policy is that in some states, like Georgia previously, the the doctors that accuse you of abuse are not required to actually review your child's medical records. They can just give an opinion. And so yeah, I know these are all things that are very nuts. Now, the silver lining of that is that when we expose it to legislators, they very quickly glom on to the idea of ending this. Like
Okay.
it's a no-brainer. So thanks to we actually in Georgia, we were so successful that the head of their CPS agency, Candace Brose, is now one of our greatest allies in the state. She saw that we
Great.
legitimately wanted to help children in Florida, and so now she's been helping us. She changed policies in her department. She helped us get Ridge's Law, which is named after Ridge Collins, one of the children that we helped to get back to their
Wow.
parents after they didn't have him for 3 years because he had an umbilical cord, I think, around his throat during birth, and they called that abuse.
Oh
I
my
might be
word.
confusing that. That might be Ehlers-Danlos. Whatever it was,
Okay.
we've dealt with both of those types. But for 3 years, they fought to get their kid back. They did get their kid back, and they named the bill after Ridge. It passed unanimously, and Governor Kemp signed it in May of last year. Either earlier this month or last month, a similar law called Patterson's Law was passed in Florida. That's very, very similar to the law in Georgia. We helped to get that passed.
Great.
And we're just waiting for Governor DeSantis to sign it. We anticipate that he will. It was it passed unanimously in one of the chambers, so we're pretty sure he will do that. And then our big victory is actually our most recent big victory is one that was originally the reason you were going to have me on, but then we won on it. In Tennessee, there was a governor's bill, which means it has to pass.
Right.
A governor's bill that the way it was originally written, depending on how you read it, it would either subject every foster child, every child under DCS care, under Child Protective Care, to being indefinite at any age, indefinitely put in juvenile detention up to all the way up to the point when they turn 19. That's because they'd have to let them out at that point without any accusation of a crime, without any accusation of a behavioral problem. All it would require is for a state employee, primarily from DCS, to say that they needed it, and in a brief hearing for a judge to agree. No attorney
What?
present, no evidence required. Literally, they could have held them. That's the first way that it's read, is that any foster child could have been accepted to that, could have been subjected to that. The other way you could read it, if you looked at it, because it's a very big bill, is that any child in Tennessee could have been subjected to that. Now, this is, for those of us who are old enough to remember, 25 years ago, this is the kind of stuff we were debating if suspected members of Al Qaeda should be subjected to indefinite
Right.
detention without proof.
Right.
And now Tennessee
Right.
was debating whether or not their children and grandchildren should be subjected to it. The good news is we got involved. You saw the social media push that we put out there. We had close to 10,000 people contact
Wow.
the legislature involved there. And they changed the bill somewhat. You can tell me if you can spot the subtle difference. So it was either any child or any foster child could basically be git mode until they turn 19 without any proof of anything. That was the original. So here's the difference, and I'm going to say it slowly because it is a subtle difference. Any child who has already been found delinquent, meaning they've already been found in a trial to have committed a crime, and now they're under DCS custody. They're in juvie, or they're in a foster care setting, or a group home, or some kind of punitive setting for juvenile delinquents. If in there they assault a staff member or a guard, their sentence can be extended for no more than 6 months.
That's better.
Yeah, no,
That
that's actually
makes
something that makes
sense.
sense. We are
Like,
still we are still fighting on one finer point on that, and we're seeing that it keeps coming up to the various committees, and they keep punting it to the next committee or their next date, and their session's about to end. So they're either about to pass a decent bill, our amendment, or our additionally amended bill, or it looks like they might just kick the can down the road and let the bill die. But what we're saying is the one thing we still want added is that when a juvenile delinquent is accused of assault, that should be treated like any other accusation of a crime with due
right.
process. Because otherwise,
Exactly.
you could imagine a scenario where like an abusive guard could tell their victim, "Hey, if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to say that you were that you abused that you assaulted me, and you're in here for 6 more months with me." And
Right.
so, I mean, there's a reason why the Constitution guarantees us certain due protections, the presumption of innocence and things like that. If
Yes.
that gets added, then this is actually a really good bill. As
Right.
it stands, it's not terrible. It's certainly not gitmoing every child or every foster child in Tennessee. And there's a chance that they might knock it down. And This is the kind of stuff we're now doing at You Are the Power. We found out about that the day before they were looking at it in the committee. And
Yeah.
this is the kind of turnaround we can do when, instead of just getting upset about stuff, we come up with an actual plan of action, an actual achievable result, and then we direct the public to an easy and accessible way to try to push for that result.
Right. And very often the defensive mechanism is really impactful rather than trying to establish something, build something, create something, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just going after the worst of the worst. It's blowing my mind that this is coming out of Tennessee, which is a deep red
Oh,
state.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
supposedly conservative. And who are well, I'm going to ask you this when we come back because we have to take a quick break.
Sure, sure.
But what is the special interest behind this? I mean, this was very carefully crafted language slipped into a bill in a supposedly conservative red state that believes in freedom and tried to push through. And now they're viciously trying to protect it. Like, I want to know who is behind this? Like, who's writing this bill?
Yeah.
Who's championing these provisions? Because it's mind-boggling to me that this type of language even exists in these bills, especially
Yeah.
in a state like Tennessee. So I'll ask you about that when we come back, and then I also want to talk
Absolutely.
about how parents. I want to talk about other attempts to take children from parents outside of medical kidnapping, and then I would love to hear some pointers and tips for parents and grandparents on how to keep their children safe, right? Because once you get locked into the snares of this apparatus, the family courts, the referees, the court appointed attorneys, CPS, and all the agents, it's incredibly difficult to get out. So I think that we should end on that, but we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we will continue this conversation with Spike Cohen. Please follow him on Twitter. His handle is @RealSpikeCohen, and make sure that you support his efforts at youarethepower.net. Youarethepower.net. They are doing God's work, very important work. Really appreciate everything that you've done up until now, Spike, and we'll be back in a moment to continue this discussion. Keep it tuned right here. But I do want to talk about parasites. So, as you know, there's been a big medical hack of 2025. Everyone's talking about parasites. In fact, my husband, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy, was recently talking about parasites as well. It's one of those topics that just has not made its way into the mainstream conversation about why we get sick, right? You go to the doctor and it's either a virus or a bacteria or virus, but you never hear a doctor ever saying, well, maybe it's a parasite, right? So there's a lot of emerging research on this. And one of the best thing that's happened in 2025 was several peer-reviewed studies that identified direct connections between anti-parasitic medications having off-label benefits, fighting a variety of cancers. So this makes a lot of sense. The connection between tumor growth and parasites has been known for years. Now, while currently the CDC remains silent, they have admitted, finally, that millions of Americans are suffering from parasitic infections that often go undetected or undiagnosed. This is why Dr. Peter McCullough, Chief Scientific Officer over at the Wellness Company and the world's most published cardiologist, says, quote, these studies make a clear case to do at least one medical grade parasite cleanse every single year. And the TWC parasite cleanse is the real deal. This is not your mother's cleanse. This is not some supplement. This is an amazing product. It is the Wellness Company's proprietary USA compounded ivermectin plus mebendazole. It is a doctor prescribed gold standard combination dose, and it's designed to help the body eliminate parasites plus a lot of other incredible benefits. Each bottle contains 90 capsules, and it's enough to complete a 21-day cleanse. So the formula cannot be found at your local pharmacy. There's no equivalent out there. But the Wellness Company removes all of that red tape by making the process fully digital. So all you have to do is fill out a quick intake form. A doctor will review the form, and your medical grade parasite cleanse will arrive to you within a week. So this is a once a year cleanse. It is worth every penny. And it's time for people to get healthy and pay attention to the parasites. So head to twc.health twc.health/joy right now. twc.health/joy. That is my landing page. If you use the promo code JOY, that's JOY, they're going to take $60 off your parasite cleanse. Plus, they're going to give you free shipping. That is only at twc.health/joy. That is twc.health/joy. Annie has popped up the QR code in the corner of the screen. You can click on that or just hover your phone over it to go right to my site and enjoy a very special gift for the SJ audience, $60 off plus free shipping on every order when you use the JOY promo code. And by the way, use the JOY promo code every time you shop at TWC. If you're already plugged in, you're already using some of their products, make sure you use that JOY code so they know I sent you. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. We will go back to Spike in just a moment, but I do want to talk to you guys about the wellness company and the Clear Skin Ivermectin cream. I'm absolutely obsessed with this cream. I have been on it now for about 2 weeks. And I don't know if you're like me, but as I've aged, I don't have breakouts, like those hormonal breakouts on my face, but the texture of my skin, it's like bumpy and red, and especially through here, in through the cheeks and around my nose, like red, itchy, flaky. I've tried everything. And a couple weeks ago, I was sent my prescription strength ivermectin cream. It's the Clear Skin Ivermectin cream from TWC. And it is obliterated everything, like no redness. If you have rosacea or any type of like bumpiness or rash on your skin, on your face, it works wonders. It's a miracle. And they're offering it from the wellness company, of course, sponsors of the Shannon Joy Show. So if you've tried everything for cheeks, redness, breakouts, and nothing works, it's not your fault. The real cause might be deeper than you think. And so Clear Skin Ivermectin cream from the wellness company is a prescription strength, dermatologist developed formula that helps reduce inflammation, balance bacteria, and restore your skin's natural glow. This is a triple action cream. It combines 3 medical grade ingredients, azelaic acid to unclog pores, metronidazole to control bacterial imbalances and redness, and then of course ivermectin to calm irritation and eliminate skin parasites that contribute to rosacea. So this packs a punch. I absolutely love it. It's formulated, compounded right here in the United States of America. It's FDA approved, and it's trusted by doctors for visible and lasting results. Very rarely do I find a product that works so well. I cannot recommend it enough to all of you. It is on sale right now at the wellness company, twc.health/joy. That is twc.health/joy, and make sure you use the JOY promo code for $20 off plus free shipping. And for all of your purchases over at the wellness company, make sure you use that JOY code because you're going to get a discount on pretty much everything. So that's twc.health/joy, twc.health/joy. I'm obsessed. All right, back to Spike Cohen. So glad to feature him for the first time here on the Shannon Joy Show, doing just absolutely amazing work, protecting families against government overreach, local and state, particularly from the family courts and agencies like Child Protective Services. Great work, Spike. And I would like to have you on more often as we cover more and more of these cases. I wanted to ask you about the special interests or the moneyed organizations. I mean, these bills don't come out of nowhere, like the Tennessee bill that you just explained in the last segment. Bills designed to incarcerate children without due process in juvenile detention centers with just a recommendation, all children of Tennessee. That doesn't just, appear out of nowhere. It's carefully crafted and inserted into these bills. And I'm wondering if you have any insight as to the organizations, the interests behind these types of pieces of legislation and the people cashing in on the trafficking of children in our country. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so what happens is, generally speaking, with any of these things, uh, as we're in the process of helping the families that are affected or the individuals that are affected, we're also doing the rabbit hole deep dive of, okay, who specifically is benefiting from this thing, whether it's an eminent domain action or, child trafficking under the color of law, medical kidnapping, massively increasing detention of innocent people, whatever the thing is. We are looking also behind the scenes of what brought us here, and usually the that's answered by figuring out where the flow of money is coming from.
Right,
Like I
right,
said before, this really is not a red or blue problem. It's a green problem. You Were the Power is a nonpartisan 501(c)(3) nonprofit, but even if we weren't, we'd still be saying this really is not a political party problem or specific individual politicians. This is what happens when human beings who are all driven by incentives are told, hey, the incentive here is for you to do this really terrible thing to people,
right,
then this is
right.
what ends up happening. And so I will say we moved so quickly on this bill in Tennessee. We actually haven't had time to do that kind of a deep dive to know specific organizations. What
Mm.
I suspect is that if you dug deep enough on the original proposal, that it would not surprise me if you ended up tying it to whatever local detention center and prison contractors there are. It definitely helps the agencies involved on two fronts. First, it helps them get more money, and also Tennessee, like many states, has such a problem with the fact that they're taking so many children at scale, which is the byproduct of getting all this federal money for the fact that they're taking as many children as they can. They don't actually know what to do with them. And so we know in Tennessee, at least 200 children have been sent out of state, which costs them significantly more, like several times more what it could to keep them in state. So if nothing else, there was probably an incentive. Let's just bring them in state and it'll save us on the budget. But that assumes that you're only still going to have that same number of kids. You've just created a new criteria that allows you to take way more kids, which means you're going to end up in the same budget nightmare as before. So it's not for nothing that often this is just really bad planning that just, gets legs and keeps getting worse and worse as mission creep sets in. But yeah, no, typically with any of these things, it's very quickly you can tie it to specific things: private prison contractors, the actual agencies themselves needing the revenue that they get from it. With the medical kidnapping thing, the foster care facilities, the family courts, the child abuse pediatrics wings at the hospitals, they're all making money based on this. And what they do is they create this. All of us are fallen, sinful beings who can find ways to kind of rationalize the things we do that are less than perfect, right? And so
Of
we've
course.
we've heard this before. We've actually talked. I talked with a CPS worker who quit in Texas. He and his wife both quit. And his breaking point for him was when they said, well, yeah, I mean, we do definitely take children from innocent parents. But think about it. The worst case scenario there is they're probably going to a better family. They probably have, better financial situation. They've been vetted by the state. They're going to be in a better situation. And, they're going to have a free community college if they want to go to that. They're going to have free health care for life. They're going to get a lot of things because they were in the foster care and adoption system from the
Oh
state.
my word.
Much better situation than the parents they were with. And that's the worst case scenario. But the worst case scenario, if we don't take a child from an abusive parent, they could die. So you tell me, which is the worst, the worst
Well,
evil here?
not for nothing, Spike. How many children disappear out of the foster care system
Exactly.
or the
Exactly.
adoption system? I mean,
Exactly.
I have to go here with you. I have
Yeah.
to go here with you, given the revelations. And we're going to be doing a couple shows on the Epstein files. I haven't done I haven't done a show in about a week because we've been touching other things. But there's a lot more coming out.
Yeah.
Horrifying, grotesque, monstrous.
Yeah.
The people who run things in Washington D.C. are vicious predators. That is the only takeaway that I think you can have when you witness what is being revealed by the release of these documents. But we have to ask about child sex trafficking and the trafficking of children, I mean, children being gr grotesquely abused. Would this system, I mean, protecting this system, wouldn't that be the perfect funnel to move children into really horrifying positions where they're not better off? They're not better off at all. They're actually being severely abused in the hands of foster parents,
Yeah.
adoptive parents, all through this system. Your thoughts on that?
in the state of Georgia alone, since 2020 alone, they have lost over 5,000 children.
Unbelievable.
And a significant number of those are teenagers who either aged out of the system and they have no idea where they are. So you can insert your thoughts there. Hopefully they went back to their parents, but you don't know. You don't know what happened. They have no way of knowing.
Crazy.
Or they were actually lost while still, teenagers or tweens or whatever age, and they just don't know where they are. So they're being taken at, in many states, they're being taken at such scale that they're putting them in hotel blocks with other teenagers. Basically, the hotel, an entire floor, an entire section of the hotel is just filled with kids in hotel rooms with little to no supervision. And some of them are being locked in the CPS agency buildings and being put in the offices of these CPS workers. They don't know where to put them. In New Hampshire is probably the worst, or was
Really?
probably the worst. So in New Hampshire, they created something called the Sununu Youth Development Center, which was
Oh my word.
basically a prison where children as young as 6 were put in a detention center and were subjected at scale to all of the most horrific things you can imagine would happen to a child in prison. One child, I don't know what words I can use or not on your program, but
Can use them.
one child, David Meehan, we know what happened to at least 2,000 children. One child, David Meehan, was subjected to every type of abuse you can imagine, including the ones that were tied, that sexual abuse as well, at scale, at least hundreds of times.
Oh my word.
And he actually ended up being awarded a $38 million settlement, which the state then cut down to 420,000 or 425,000, something like that. But there are over 2,000 kids behind him waiting for their shot as well. People
Oh
have
my
already
word.
gone to prison for it. And this, you mentioned that a lot of the people in positions of power are traffickers or are abusers and predators themselves. We have to remember something, because we often look at the government as this sort of like Leviathan font of knowledge that has just some of the wrong people in place. We need to remember something. Abusers will often pick vocations that make it easier for them to abuse. Now,
Yes.
there isn't a vocation much easier than abusing people than being put in a position of direct authority over children with little to no accountability, where the only one who could effectively say that you're doing it to them is the child, and where you would be the one who would be in charge of investigating whether or not it happened. And so
Horrifying.
that's what we're seeing. I will tell any parent, any grandparent, any guardian watching this, the best place for your children to be is with you,
Yeah.
or a loved one, someone in your family, someone that you know. That's the safest place. And you'll notice there's this increasing subtle propaganda where coming from the state, where they'll say, well, abuse is most likely to happen from someone and which can be true, but they'll use it as a way of trying to justify institutionalizing children, having it be the teachers and the principals and the people in the DCS, in the child protective services, them making the decisions, because they're just an uninterested third party. Well, we just see at best they're financially incentivized to often take children who don't need to be taken, and at worst, that's where predators go to be able to do the worst.
Utterly horrifying. And very interesting that the states that you talked about today, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, New Hampshire, this happens in New York and California, blue states as well.
Oh
But
yeah,
I really,
Massachusetts, all of them. Yeah, all of them.
but it's important because there is this myth within conservative media and in the Republican Party that these type of things are not happening in red states. And one of the worst situations of abuse that I have ever seen and reported on in my life, and I can't remember the name of the family. It was 10 years ago that I reported on this on my show. I've been doing CPS, medical kidnapping. I mean, that's been a feature, not a feature, a horrifying feature of my show since I've launched, 12 years ago. But it was out of Texas. I mean, Texas was the worst of the worst in terms of the states. What would you tell parents? We have about 7 minutes before we have to close up.
Okay.
Again, Spike Cohen with us today. He is the founder and president of You Are the Power. They are helping thousands and thousands of families. They are helping people advocate for themselves. They are protecting children. We need to support them. The website is youarethepower.net. That's youarethepower.net. And if you follow Spike on Twitter, his handle is @RealSpikeCohen. You can follow the cases that he is working on, the families that need our help. You can contribute to their efforts by sending emails and signing petitions and alerting politicians, people in your state or in surrounding states. There is so much that we can do outside of electoral politics to help children. And I want to encourage you guys to do that. If we put our time and energy and money into organizations and efforts like Spikes, rather than all of the political circus sideshows that we focus on, in the midterm elections and in presidential elections, we would have a different country. These things would not be able to persist. And so I want to encourage you guys to support. I've gone through his website, by the way. You run it beautifully. You're transparent. It's a beautiful organization. I'm so thankful for you. I really am. I cannot tell you how impressed I am by you and your organization and what you have put together. It is an example to everyone else out there in our country. But as we close out the show, let's talk about how to protect our children.
Yeah.
There are moms and dads, grandmothers and grandfathers watching today. How would you advise them to protect their children, to keep them out of the system? Because once you get ensnared, you could be an amazing person. It is so hard to get out. And every parent faces the potential of losing their child. Every parent. Doesn't matter what your socioeconomic demographic is. It does not matter whether you're white or black, rich or poor,
It doesn't. Yeah.
Catholic,
Yeah.
Protestant, Democrat, Republican. Every parent is at risk at losing their children. I'll give it over to you to address that and how people can protect themselves and their kids.
Yeah, so I don't want people to be paranoid, but I do want you to be aware. When you are in any kind of medical situation with your child, they're in a doctor's office, they're in a hospital, there is at least the potential that there is an investigation being built, whether you realize it or not, or that the information is there for if an investigation is built, that they already have that information that they need. So I'm not saying don't disclose things with your doctor or anything like that. I am saying just be aware of that fact, first of all. If at any point there is your child goes into a hospital, especially a children's hospital, and there's any kind of injury and a doctor starts asking you questions, you are almost certainly under investigation. And so what I would encourage parents to do, first of all, if at any point you either suspect or know that you are under investigation or that CPS has opened a case or anything like that, go to youarethepower.net/help, give us your information, and we will look at it, and we can start actually, if it's something that fits within our scope of work, we can actually start working with you directly even before the most terrible things happen. We've been able to actually reunite families where we sent out a couple emails and got the whole thing killed. So the earlier we get involved, the better. If it's within our scope of work. So that's the first thing I'd say. The next thing I'd say is standard issue stuff. Know your rights. If you're being asked a bunch of leading questions, you're allowed to say, I don't want to answer these questions. I think I'm being under investigation and I'd like to not answer these questions. If a CPS agent starts getting involved, and CPS is Child Protective Services, they're called different things state by state, but if a child protective agent comes in, you're allowed to say, I only want to speak with an attorney present. If they say, oh, we'd like you to sign this document agreeing to, you can say, I don't want to sign anything until my attorney has looked at it. If they say we'd like to come to your house to check something, you can say, I don't want you in my house without a warrant. You're allowed to say these things. And very often, because they operate on a big part of what they operate on is on the fact that these parents just want to get to the bottom of what's going on with their kids. They'll work with anyone, they'll talk to anyone, and they don't mean harm to themselves. But what they're doing is they're making it a lot easier for the state to build a case against them. So the more you do to assert your rights, the harder it is because they don't have a case against you. So it's going to be hard for them to get a warrant. They might be able to, but at the very least, there's protections there. So it's standard issue, know your rights stuff. Standard issue, don't comply past what you're required by law. Get an attorney involved if you need to. And like I said, first thing you do, I guess probably first thing you do is contact an attorney. Second thing you do, go to youarethepower.net/help, fill out our form. And if there's something we can do to help, we will. Like I said, there are a lot of these families we've reunited. It was they fought for it for years, and then we found out about it and helped them. But now they're tens of thousands in debt. They lost formative years with their kids. Other people who knew about us when this happened, they contacted us. We were able to send out some emails. They never lost their kids, or they only had them gone for a couple of days.
Wow.
And this nightmare's behind them.
Well, Spike, that's so important too, because abuse happens when that child is removed from your custody and put into a foster situation or a a state custody situation, it's a split second for an abuse to take place and your child is changed forever,
Your
forever,
your
forever.
child, if part of this is, and we've seen this in multiple cases, if it's that your child has Ehlers-Danlos or some medical condition, they won't treat them for that because they would be acknowledging that that was what caused it. And so for at least initially, until they reach a certain point where they're like really bad off, they won't treat them.
Oh
So
my
at the
word.
very least, your child will likely, well, if in that kind of scenario, if your child has like a connective tissue or bone disorder, there's a very good chance if they take the child and they have reason to think that this isn't a good case, they might, we've seen in other cases where they denied them treatment.
Yeah.
And then even after they had to start treating them, they still pretended that that wasn't what was causing the injuries. But
Right.
there are times where children were, and I'm talking children, newborns, weeks, months, couple years old, have issues that need medical intervention, and they weren't getting it, essentially because that would kind of require them to acknowledge that that's probably what was causing it.
Right. Right. I would add to that as well. Make sure that you trust your practitioners and be
Yeah.
very discerning in who you take your children to. I drive my children 50 minutes because there is one practitioner in my general area that I trust my children to see. So that's one area. Keep your families together. I
Yeah.
have, after reporting this over 12 years, Spike, it's, as long as there's not, abuse or adultery or any of the, obviously, you have to protect yourself and make your
Of course.
determinations. But
Of course.
families that are connected, I mean, mom and dad are together, they will go in and they will exploit the division in a separated family. And very often that allows the state to come in as a wedge between the mother and the father. You're inviting the state into your family situation as a mediator. And I've seen that exploited and abused so many times over the years. So I would say that document.
Yeah.
If I was in a situation and my child was in a hospital situation, an emergency situation, my phone would be recording the whole time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let them know, but in my purse, the record button, every interaction that I had with the doctor, and there are also actually some documents that you can present to, a hospital or a situation where you can establish some of your rights there as well. So those are just some things that I would add to Spike to parents, because man, it's dangerous out there. This type of stuff keeps me up at night
It's a
with my
horrifying
kids,
thing.
you
Yeah, no,
know.
it's a horrifying thing, and I mean, in some of the and I, because I don't want to end on a sour note. These were cases where we were able to reunite the families, but we've heard that these families were essentially told, "Listen, you right now you're not allowed to talk to your wife. You're not going to see your kids. You're facing decades in prison. If you sign this, you're not going to see your kids again. But the prison's over, and you got your wife back, and you're young. You can have more kids."
It's
And
unbelievable.
instead, what happened was we got those children back home where they belonged, and
Good for you.
we reunited them.
All right. Okay. Well, here's your pitch. I mean, how can people help you, find you? What do you need from them? And we're going to close the show out.
Yeah, go to youarethepower.net. If you want to be at the tip of the spear of doing this, you can join to become a member and you'll be among the first to find out about new causes, how you can get involved. You can become a volunteer and by going to youarethepower.net/volunteer. And if you're in a position to give, these causes typically can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 on the low end to up to $25,000 if it actually goes to criminal and family court. So
Right.
every little bit helps. You can go to youarethepower.net/donate. But it all starts at youarethepower.net. We love to have you be a part of this.
All right. Spike Cohen, amazing work. Thank you so much. We'll have you on
Thank
again.
you.
Okay.
Thank you, Shannon. I'd love that.
Of course. Of
God
course.
bless.
All right, everyone. That's it. We have exhausted our time here on the Shannon Joy Show, Thursday edition. Thank you so much for being with us today on the show. Tomorrow, live show, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, right here. We will welcome Peter Schiff into the Joy Virtual Studio. Your money, your wealth, the incoming financial collapse. He says it's going to be worse than the 2008 housing collapse. You need to be prepared. Do not miss tomorrow's show. It's going to be a very, very important show. Next week, Monday, Dr. Peter McCullough will be live in the Joy Virtual Studio, among other great guests. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Make sure that you sign up for your daily e-newsletter at theshannonjoy.com. theshannonjoy.com. This is the way that I can stay connected to you. If we ever get deplatformed, pulled off of Twitter, shoved off of Rumble, you never know when they're going to pull the rug out from underneath you when you're an independent like this show. And so the most critical thing that you can do today to help keep this independent show thriving and independent is to sign up for that daily e-newsletter. theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. I send out my show notes every single day so you know when the show is starting and what the topics are. And I also include all of the supporting documents that I use in the context of the show. So it's a great informative newsletter. You get it every single day and you won't miss a Shannon Joy Show episode ever because you'll get those alerts. So have a wonderful evening. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.